Okay, so the video talking about Gambit did very well. So I figured I'll talk about another element of X-Men 97, which it was kind of more of a minute aspect of it. It was very much an undercurrent in the whole story that they were telling for this season. But it was how Wolverine is dealing with his emotions and his feelings towards Jean. You'll see it in a lot of comics, you'll see it especially in the early seasons of the original X-Men cartoon. In various different iterations, Logan is down bad for Jean. I don't know whether it's just the general fact that she's a telepath, he has a thing for redheads. It doesn't matter. Like, he's mad about her, and in a way where it causes more damage to the X-Men overall when he meddles than it is just, oh, it's something he can do against Scott. And like, Scott plays very little of a factor in this whole thing. He generally does have feelings for her, but I think, again, with Logan being a character a lot like Magneto in a way, who has lived a long life, ever since we figured out about X-Men, Wolverine's origins staying way back. I can't think of the actual date off the top of my head right now, but his origins sets him way back. With that being said, he's been around a long time. He's a character who I put in this kind of gray area box where, so long as the person he's interacting with is an adult, I would say early 20s at the earliest, he's okay. He's okay to be in a relationship with, even though there is a massive age gap. It's either that or he dies alone, and I think that's kind of sucks. That's not fair. It's not his fault. He's immoral, basically. And his healing factor, it's not his fault. He can't even switch it off if he wanted to. So, what do we look at when it comes to Wolverine and his way of dealing with his emotions and his feelings towards Jean? Well, let's put the first thing first. He isn't pursuing her at the start of the season. At the start of the season, he's very much like, I'm backing off, right? I'm not interacting, I'm not trying to seduce. It has very little to do with the fact that she's pregnant. I don't think that plays as much as a factor as most people would think. I think regardless of whether the fact that she was pregnant with Scott's child or even his child or even anyone else's child, I think he generally just loves her and would be like, regardless of who this child belongs to, I will love you, I will raise this child with you. It's why he goes out of his way. Like, he drives her to the hospital, he makes sure she's there. Again, there's no bitter feelings, there's no, oh, I didn't get my woman and blah blah blah. Again, a good mentality to have, you know, about being friends with your ex or being friends with someone you were once in love with and are no longer friends with. Obviously it takes time. That shit takes time. You can't rush that shit. You can't just expect someone to be over their feelings like that. But what he does very well, he acknowledges, okay, this isn't going to happen. He gives him time to grieve that relationship ending, and he moves on, right? Which is good. That's what you're supposed to do, especially if what you want is a friendship at the end of it. If you want to stay friends, you do need to grieve the loss of the relationship so you can have the friendship. You almost have to take it out and bury it so you can welcome the friendship back, which is a very difficult thing, and not a lot of people can do that when it comes to their exes, depending on how close their feelings, depending on how long they've had those feelings. It's not sustainable all the time. So Logan clearly did the work. He put in the work so that way when, you know, she's literally giving birth to someone else's child, he's able to be like, I'm not jealous, I'm not, you know, envious. I'm happy for them. I'm happy for both Scott. I'm happy for both Jean. And he is at a place of peace. He's just happy that there's a healthy child in the world, and, you know, he's good. The thing that throws the wrench in the whole situation is finding out that's not Jean at all. That's Madeline Pryor. That Jean stumbles back in, mind wiped or mind confused, has no idea how long she's been gone, but she's the real Jean. Now there's two of them. Scott is after having a kid with one of them, with Madeline, literally the exact clone of Jean. So here's someone that he could potentially, if he wanted to, form a relationship with. Now, he doesn't hide from Jean about how much he loves her. right? He doesn't. He knows full well that his feelings for her are strong and true and real. He's not trying to convince her to take him. She's very much lost. She's very much lost in her mind. She's struggling with the fact that here is someone who's walking, talking, literally had the child of her husband, right? That's hard for your brain to rack, let alone all the psychic damage she's received down to Mr. Sinister. She's a broken woman. She is struggling. So unfortunately for Logan, unfortunately for Jean, he allows her into his head and goes, hey, find your way back to you through me. How much I love you. Through my feelings. How I see you. Now, even if we could do that in real life, let's say for instance, I lost my memories and the love of my life was sitting in front of me, or someone who loved me like I was their love of their life was able to let me read their minds so I could see myself through their eyes. That's not going to be a perfect image, right? It's going to be the most fantasized, most unrealistic version of yourself. But there are elements of you, of the real you, there for them to latch onto. So the way I see it is that he had to open that wound of the love that he cannot give her because she does not want it, not in that way, so she could find herself. Now it helped. It wasn't necessarily a roadmap, but more passerby knows the general location of where you need to go, which helps. It does help, regardless of what anyone thinks, but it does help, and it does help Jean find those stepping stones to find out who she is and figure out that, oh yeah, I am the real Jean Grey. I am the one who is the Phoenix. I am this person. That unfortunately has kind of had a rippling effect on Logan, because Logan is there like, I still have these feelings for Jean. They weren't as buried deep because obviously I had to bring them up so she could find herself. And now here she is. We lead into the next episode, and Jean catches Scott and Madeline having a psychic affair. The very day that they're supposed to do these interviews with the world and talk about Genosha and all this sort of stuff. So obviously she storms off, she's pissed, right? As you would be, of course you would be. The man you love is cheating on you. Even though it is a clone version of you, she now, once she knows that she is not the original, she has branched off to become her own person, it's still technically cheating. Because it was one thing when he didn't know. Now he does. And it's a very difficult line to cross, because obviously, who were you married to? Were you married to Madeline or were you married to Jean? Because only one of them is the mother of your child. But anyway, Jean goes one way, Scott goes another, and Jean is off in the lake, and she's using her psychic powers in the pool to kind of visually show the audience the memories she's trying to remember of her time with Scott. Most importantly with Scott. And Logan comes in, and he's not there to cause trouble. He's not there to be like, sorry, let's forget Slim, come with me sort of attitude. He's trying to help her understand. She's trying to help her figure out what she needs. And it's only then that she kisses him. Now, here's the thing, and this is a crucial point. If Logan was the scumbag that he was maybe a decade or two ago, he would have capitalized on this. He would have jumped. He would have been like, yeah, you, me, Jean, let's go off, let Madeline have Scott, be done with it. He doesn't. Because he knows where her feelings are at. It's not because... she's not jumping on him because she realizes, oh, it's always been you, Logan. Forget Scott. He's a cheating son of a bitch. No. She's doing it because it's a rebound. She's doing it because she feels lost. She feels vulnerable. And she's looking for solace where she can get it. I'm not going to sit here and judge her. Not even slightly. It's a very human response. Doesn't matter whether you're male, doesn't matter if you're female, doesn't matter if binary, doesn't matter who you are. It's a very human thing to seek solace in any way, shape or form with somebody familiar. I'm just grateful and glad that Logan said, this ain't it. This isn't it. He's able to politely, in a very real way, to reject her. We say, no, this isn't it. You and Scott need to figure your stuff out. He's not actively saying he doesn't love her. He just knows that what she's doing is not an expression of love for him. Those are two different things. If she loved him, there would be this no confusion, because Scott's clearly off with Madeline, so why wouldn't she go with Logan? She's hurt because she caught Scott with Madeline. In their mind, that's an icky thing for him to deal with. So Logan wants to be there for her as a friend. He has to put those boundaries in place to say, hey, this isn't it. We're not doing this. The only issue that presents itself, I really do believe, in the end of the season, regarding Logan's feelings, is even Scott kind of poking the bear a bit, because obviously this is after the point where Magneto has ripped the adamantium off Wolverine's bones. We know where that goes in the comics. If you don't, wait for season 2 if you want, or go look it up on YouTube. Logan is obviously in a very fragile state. His healing factor is working overtime, not to replace the adamantium, because that's not his mutant power. His mutant power is the claws and the healing factor. So his body is going through the absolute ringer to keep him alive while he processes the fact that the adamantium was ripped from his body. So one of the things Scott says is, don't you dare break her heart, implying the fact that if he dies, that would break Jean's heart. Which I'm like, okay, listen. I'm all for polyamory. I think when it's done correctly and people are in open communication with everything, it works. Obviously, for some people it doesn't. Some people it works phenomenally. I'm not here to cause judgment. The whole Krakoa era dealt with the idea that Scott, Logan, and Jean were in a polyamorous relationship. I don't know how much of it I believe that in that entire run that they were all boinking each other. I don't know about that, but I do know they were in a committed trouble with each other. There was some open-ended bits here and there, but that's beside the point. The point being is, I don't think they were pushing this particular point in X-Men 97. I think this would have been too much for the show to get greenlit. And again, I believe, Disney would only allow so much of that to go on the show. But then, obviously, they're falling back to Earth. Logan is calling for Jean because obviously he's in such a fragile and vulnerable state. He's looking for someone he loves, and of course he loves Jean. And then Morph, obviously, I don't know how much Morph has a full-on romantic wanting a full-on romantic relationship with Logan, but he definitely feels safe around Logan. He feels comfortable around Logan. He definitely has. And if they do go into the new season trying and showing more of that Morph dealing with his emotions, because I don't know what way they're going to swing that. To my knowledge, I've never seen Logan in a same-sex relationship, with the exception of obviously the hinting about it being between himself and Scott, with Jean added in. It's obviously something that they'll touch on and they'll work with, but nothing is set in stone. But it'll be very interesting to see where they go with it. But obviously what Morph does is he turns himself into Jean and he confesses his love. Now the thing is, Logan is obviously clearly out of it, but how much of his brain is able to process the fact that, okay, Morph was here 2 seconds ago, now I'm hearing Jean's voice. It will be very interesting if that plays a factor at all in season 2. I hope it doesn't. I hope that's more of a hold on sort of moment for Logan and full on acknowledging that was Morph saying that to him and not Jean, in the most comfortable way that Morph could say it to Logan, rather than Logan getting confused and then starting up a whole another love triangle bollocks going into season 2. I don't know where Logan has transported through this whole situation with them back and forth in the future and whatnot. It's a very interesting one to deal with, and I think, okay, how they deal with that is going to be interesting. What they do with it will be interesting. As far as what I think I'm taking away from what Logan was like in this episode or in this season, he's definitely a guy who is processing his feelings as best as he can. And he's acknowledging, okay, this is where I am. This is the situation. I love this woman. I love this woman more than I love anyone else. But she does not love me. And I have to process that. I have to accept that. Even the point where she throws herself at me, I know she's not doing this because she loves me. I know she's doing this because she wants a connection. I know she feels vulnerable. I would be taking advantage. I would be using this hurt, this pain that she's going into for my advantage. I do not want her to come to me like this. I want her to come to me because she loves me and no other reason. Not for pity, not to get back at Scott. I want her to come back because that's what I want. I want her to want me. And I think Wolverine has gotten to that point where he's like, yeah, this is the most important thing to me. The X-Men are the most important thing to me. And Jean is the most important thing to me. But Jean's happiness and Jean's independent happiness from him is what's important to him. So hopefully they don't try and spin it that Logan is confused, that it was Jean speaking to him and not actually Morph. But there's only one way to find out. We'll have to watch the episodes when they come out. But that's kind of just about it. The last video with Gambit did very well. I figured I'll make another one to talk about X-Men. If anyone else has any other questions or anything else they want an insight on, or what my opinion was on, I definitely want to keep doing more of these. I want to stay more active on YouTube, even if it means more work in editing. But yeah, thanks again for making that video do well, and I will hopefully keep doing this.